Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
All right, welcome back. This is Corey Boatwright from Real Estate Investing Profits, your host on Real Estate Profit Masters podcast series. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing phenomenal. We have an incredible guest. His name is Joe Fairless. Have you heard of him? He has a podcast of his own. It's actually called The Best Real Estate Investing Advice Ever. That's actually the name of the podcast. And he lives up to that claim because this guy is someone that not only controls $21 million worth of real estate right now, I believe he's closing on his third apartment complex or commercial property. And he is someone that you're going to learn quite a bit from. He is very humble, yet he is incredibly knowledgeable. And he became a vice president of an award-winning New York City ad agency before his 30th birthday. But that wasn't enough for Joe. What he basically did was he had to find another way. And this real estate investing just piqued his interest too much. He had a mentor that helped him in a tremendous way. You'll actually hear about his mentor. Do you know that Joe actually performed a comedy routine at Gotham Comedy Club in New York City as well? He's working on his own book, which I'm going to be the first one to get when it comes out. And he's actually a captain of a championship flag football team. And he's raised a lot of money, and he's going to talk about how he's done that. This guy is just an all-around, I joke with him, call him, an average Joe, but he's anything but average. You're going to love this interview. You're going to love the things that we discuss. And Joe is somebody that you're going to learn quite a bit from. So here you go. I hope you enjoy this interview with Joe Fairless. Don't forget to text the word profit to 38470 to get your down and dirty ultimate real estate investing quick start guide. You can do it right now. Text the word profit 38470 and it will be automatically sent to you. So I hope you have a productive, fun, incredibly fulfilled day and enjoy this interview with Joe Fairless. Joe, my man, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Corey?
I'm doing well. Man, your voice is so chill. It's so calm and so chill. Are you always that way? Or are you just real calm and chill?
I don't get too high, too low. I'd say if you get me in a game of Connect 4, then I might get really excited, though.
Connect 4, really?
Yeah. Oh, I love Connect 4. Yeah.
Don't go too competitive there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very good at it, too.
What about Uno? Are you good at Uno?
Uno? No, I don't know Uno. Uno's child's play. Only Connect 4 is for the experts.
I see. It's funny. I was on this Alexa, Alexa for Amazon. It actually has games now for like Jeopardy. So my brother, which is hanging out with me for a while, we go in sometimes. We go, Alexa, play Jeopardy. And then we'll be back and forth, real competitive on this Jeopardy. But Alexa's, basically they're asking us the questions. It's pretty funny.
Oh yeah. I'm out of my element with trivia. That's for sure. So I get dominated there.
But don't mess with you on Connect 4.
Don't mess with me, Connect 4. No, I'm very good.
Listen, I know that we're talking about games, but in all seriousness, you are one heck of a serious real estate investor. I think now, last bio I was looking at, you controlled somewhere around $21 million worth.
Yep, that's true. And closing on a $5.9 million apartment community March 1st.
Wow, that's how big is it?
155 units.
And the other one before is 156, I think.
The one before that was 250, and then my first one was 168.
168. Okay, so now you're your third one.
Yes, third apartment community. Yep, I have homes in Dallas, Fort Worth, but third apartment community.
Third apartment community. Okay, so yeah, I want to ask about that. Obviously, what kind of first off, where would you consider you're an expert? Are you expert more in residential or more commercial?
Apartments. I'd say apartments. I can run buy and hold single families. I can run those numbers in my sleep.
Right.
And then I went from that to apartments. And so now my focus is buying apartment communities with investors and sharing in the profits.
I read some of your story online, but can you share a little bit of how you got involved in real estate?
Yeah, sure. So really quickly, went to Texas Tech, graduated in 2005, and then moved straight from Texas Tech, Lubbock, where there's cows and cotton, to New York City, where there's none of that. It's just really tall buildings and lots of concrete,
right.
And friendlier people than what we're given credit for, by the way.
I see.
And I was actually an advertising major, English minor. Worked at advertising agency making less than minimum wage when you factor in the hours, but it was on Madison Avenue.
Wow.
And I, right out of college, I had a prestigious job. Wasn't a well-paying job, but it was a prestigious job in the advertising industry. Climbed the corporate ladder. I became the youngest vice president of a New York City advertising agency. At that point, my base salary was $150,000, not including bonus. So I was making, pretty good money for, before 30 years old.
Absolutely.
But I realized that I just wasn't fulfilled anymore. I didn't care about what I was doing. I was also teaching classes on the side. I'd started investing in real estate on the side, buying single family homes in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I was talking to my friends about it, and they'd be like, well, how are you doing this? Don't you work in an advertising agency, Mad Men style? I was like, yeah, I do the advertising agency stuff, but I wanted to invest the money that I was eventually making about, towards the end of my advertising career. And I started teaching how to do that, how to invest in other markets where they cash flow. So
I started teaching like classes online or
in person, and then I did that. I was doing it like once or twice a month. On the side, I was also
like a little hotel room or a little Denny's or something.
Yeah, in a shared workspace type of thing. Yeah, for anyone in New York City, is at the Grind. And what I ended up doing is just gravitating more and more towards real estate, because that's where my where my interests were.
Right.
Tony Robbins talks about the 6 human needs. I won't go into all 6 of them, but the last 2 lead to fulfillment, and that's growth and contribution. I didn't feel like I was growing. I didn't feel like I was making a meaningful contribution in what I was doing in advertising. And in real estate, I was constantly mentally stimulated. I was learning, as well as I felt like what I was doing mattered by improving apartment communities, having nice places to live, as well as improving the community around the apartment, and then making really good money added along the way. So I figured, merge the best of both worlds, and that's how I got into apartments.
That's an interesting story. You mentioned Tony Robbins. He talks about the science of achievement and
art of fulfillment.
Yeah, and the art of fulfillment. And he says one of the ultimate failures is to achieve everything you want and then not be fulfilled.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I can totally relate a lot with that as well. There's it's real easy to just get into this habit of just being productive and achieving, and then kind of ask yourself, why am I doing it later?
Yeah.
Instead of asking yourself why in the beginning.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, because we identify typically monetary goals, or at least, I identified monetary goals. I won't speak for anybody else. I identified monetary goals. And then once I achieved it, I was like, well, wait a second. Is this really what I want to be doing? And am I really passionate about it? And so that's why I started what I like to call sample life experiences. I did the class in real estate. I also did stand-up comedy in New York City.
That's crazy.
I was crazy. Yeah. I performed at 2 comedy clubs in New York.
Were you any good? Did people show up and laugh?
No, one of them is now shut down. That's how good I was.
That's a pretty hilarious joke by itself.
Oh, yeah. I use that a lot. So if you heard other interviews, then yeah.
So you're no Jim Gaffigan. That's what you're saying.
Oh, I'm so glad that you mentioned him, because
he's one of my favorite comedians.
Well, listen to this. You're going to love this. This is going to blow you away. The first show I did, Guess who opened up for me?
No way. Jim Gaffigan?
Opened up for me.
That's awesome.
Yes.
What a great
He opened
story.
up for me, and I was later in the show. Yes.
Oh, that's so great. What a great story, man.
Yeah. The only thing he talked about was Subway, his whole Subway experience, and just like went into it in exhaustive detail of like them making the sandwich and what they're thinking and all sorts of crazy stuff.
He didn't do the Hot Pocket. Hot Pocket.
I think he pulled that out too. Yeah, I think he pulled that out too. Yeah. So I was sampling all different life experiences, including rubbing elbows with Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah.
And I was also writing a book. I was interviewing people on how to have a remarkable career. The book hasn't published yet because I just got sidetracked once I started doing real estate stuff, but it will be published. But the point is that I was searching and seeking out different experiences that would be fulfilling because I wasn't fulfilled in my full-time job. And it ended up being where it was unfair to myself as well as the employer that I was still employed because I was annoyed when they were asking me to do stuff. I was like, well, why? And then I'm thinking, hold up, they're paying you a salary. That's why. And at that point, I knew it was time to go. And that's whenever I got serious about leaving. So
your breaking point really isn't the same as some other where they just kind of got to a place they're sick and tired. You really got to a place where it sounds like, from what you're saying, what I hear you saying is, you're making the money, everything was fine, but you just didn't feel like you were contributing enough where you were really growing as an individual. And from that point, you also probably weren't as challenged as well. So your breaking point really is a place of realization that I guess you could just do more and you could actually be more fulfilled and ultimately obviously make more money from just moving away from the advertising.
Yeah, a lot of people mention that. Boy, you had that realization a lot earlier than most people. It's usually like a midlife crisis type of thing where you wake up and you realize, oh shoot, I'm not in the right industry. This isn't a fulfilling thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that I came across. I would attribute it to Tony Robbins and just listening to all sorts of his stuff. But then also the advertising agency I was working at for the long period of time. I was the seventh person, and whenever I left, there were over 150 people. Wow. So I grew with the company, and I was working closely with the founder of the company. So I saw and I learned from how he was building the business and how we were building it together.
Can you talk about who it was or not?
Yeah. Matt Britton is the founder of the agency. The agency, whenever I was working there, it was called Mr. Youth, MRYOUTH, and now they've been bought by a large holding company, I think twice over. But whenever they initially got bought, they got bought for like $40 million.
Wow.
So now they're called MRY.
Okay.
It's MRY.com. So he taught me a whole lot about being an entrepreneur, how to constantly.
Is he like one of your influences for real estate? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, for entrepreneurship, because ultimately being in real estate is being a entrepreneur.
Right.
And the thing I learned from him is many things, but one is you have to constantly innovate. You have to stay one step ahead of the industry and anticipate what's about to happen. And that's something that Tony Robbins talks about as well.
Absolutely. It's right on point. He had some great advice.
Mm-hmm. Great
advice. So for real estate investing, did you have anybody specific that you started following with that, or did you just kind of jump in?
I've had 4 total mentors in real estate. The first one taught me how to learn wholesaling, fix and flip, lease option. I didn't do any of it, but I learned it, and it helped give me a broader perspective of the whole real estate game. Another mentor, and they're all 3 out of the 4 were paid. The second mentor taught me how to evaluate apartments and raise money. The third taught me, and the third was not paid, but we were going to do a development deal together, and he was getting in on a development deal that I was presenting to him. Turned out the numbers didn't work out, and the seller wasn't ready to come down to reality, so we didn't buy it. Right. But that was an experience where he taught me a lot about development, even though if I were to do a development, I would have to partner with somebody with experience because I don't have that background right now.
Gotcha.
And then the fourth one is a business/life coach that I've had for about 3 to 4 years through the Tony Robbins program. His name's Trevor McGregor, and he talks to me about Tony Robbins principles. As well as your strategy and also different personal things too. We just talk about things like that with an eye towards results.
Gotcha. Okay, so really Tony's been kind of in there all the time. Then you just got one of his mentors. That's cool. So let me ask you a question about some kind of. I don't really like the word failure because I think you just learn what you don't want to do, right? So I really, this word of failure really bothers me. But what's kind of like a mistake that you had in real estate that you learned from? Not, something that you went through and you had some aha moments, and maybe you could teach others how you got through it.
Well, a lot of them we could do a whole. I mean,
let's just pick one that kind of comes to your mind. About
today? I mean,
pick one that comes to your mind.
Yeah, I'd say. One of them is on my first syndicated deal. I raised just enough to close.
Explain to some of our listeners what a syndicated deal is.
Syndicated deal, really simply, is when you raise money from investors, buy something together, and share in the profits.
Right. Okay.
That's syndicated deal. If it's likely that all of the listeners have participated in a syndication, if you have flown, because essentially what you're doing when you fly is you're paying a small fee to participate in something where you all achieve your outcome going from one destination to another, and that is a syndication. So, but this is in real estate. And whenever I was raising money for a 168 unit apartment community here in Cincinnati, I'd never raised a penny before. And I ended up raising the money, or so I thought. And then 2 weeks before we were supposed to close,
this wasn't family either. This is separate. I remember reading it's not family, right?
That's correct. No family members invested in the first deal, not because they didn't want to. It's just timing wasn't right or whatever circumstances. So I had ended up bringing in 12 investors for the first deal, but one of them, actually two of them, about 2 weeks before we were supposed to close, ended up backing out or lowering their amount to a sum of $200,000.
Gotcha.
So I needed to make up $200K, and it was a scrambling type of moment. I wasn't going to, there was no option other than to close. So I was going to make it happen. It was a great deal, but it was something that I learned from. And specifically what I do differently now is I raise 30% more than what I need for the deal.
Right.
And then I'm transparent with those investors who are the extra 30%. And I tell them if something changes, then you're next in. But that was a scenario that I will avoid in the future and that I learned from.
It's really good. That's great advice. So let me ask you a question. There's what we call our profit master investing strategies. And mostly this is focused on residential properties, but it doesn't have to be necessarily, especially with your experience in commercial. I know you have several properties in Dallas, Fort Worth too, residential properties, right?
Yeah, single family homes.
So do you have a profit master investing strategy? Do you have something that really sticks out that you could share that it really gives you kind of the edge on either getting deals or making extra money on deals?
Well, a podcast.
You do have a great podcast.
Yeah, it's been the number one way of developing relationships with people that I wouldn't have spoken to if I didn't have a daily podcast. I mean,
interesting.
I'm the only insane person in real estate, and there are a lot of insane people in real estate, but I'm the only insane person in real estate who has done a daily podcast as long as I've been doing it. Unless someone out there can show me someone who's been doing it longer that I'm not aware of, but I've been doing it for about a year and a half now, daily, every single day, and it's an interview format. It's not me talking and to yakking it up. It's me bringing on successful entrepreneurs.
Right.
As a result, I've learned directly from Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank. I've learned from Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and many others. And through that, I get deals I get quote unquote off market deals, and I say quote unquote because a lot of them aren't off market. They just claim to be off market. However, there are some off market deals that are truly off market, as well as relationships. I mean, for this, I'm working on a deal right now. I'm going to be closing on 155 unit that we talked about earlier in Houston, and I'm raising $1.3 million. I'd say from podcast listeners, I've raised 400,000 to 500,000. I'm not I'm not soliciting the deal.
Right.
I'm just simply talking about things I've got going on, and then they reach out to me, and then I qualify them as accredited investors, and so on and so forth.
Right.
But that has given me an advantage that I didn't anticipate whenever I started it.
That's interesting. That is really interesting. So you're doing a daily podcast. How are you keeping up with that?
Yeah, team. At first, I was doing everything myself, from finding the guest, doing the interview, editing it, which I hate, but I was editing it, reaching out to them after it went live with an email, and then asking them to promote it. Oh, and doing all the show notes. I was doing it all by myself.
Wow.
It's crazy. I did that for 3 months.
Wow.
A whole lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. Now I have a team, and the only thing I do out of all those is the interview. That's the only thing I do. I've got team members who do everything else.
You get an interview. Do you do something where you kind of record a bunch of people for the whole week and then release them as you do that? Or do you actually record people every day?
I am 1 month ahead of schedule right now. So when we talk, if we were to talk today, then your interview would go live in 1 month from now.
Yeah, it's a couple of weeks for me as well. I think I found that works. That really works the best, and you have to have any kind of life to do it. And I also have a great team that all I wanted to do is just do the interview, and then I want to put that into a Dropbox, and then I want them to do their magic from there, do everything. So that's how we have it set up, and it works. It works really great. But we don't do a daily show. But I think John Lee Dumas, or are you friends with John?
Yeah. And I was on that show. His daily. I'm talking about real estate. I don't think there's any other daily real estate. But yeah, John does it daily. He was actually an inspiration.
Yes.
In my business life coach Trevor, he told me about John and Entrepreneur on Fire. So I started following it, and I ended up being a guest on Entrepreneur on Fire. I know you have too. And he's a great template to follow. He has a great template to follow for that.
Yeah, he does. He absolutely does. Well, that's cool. That's interesting. I never had anybody talk about a podcast being their profit master strategy. That's actually makes a lot of sense. We've been doing these periscopes lately, just here in our local area, and we run a meetup, and my team runs it. And basically, we've been doing these periscopes, and then we periscope the meetup. And then we have people that submit deals and buyers that are interested, that have been watching from all over the place. Because, when you do a Periscope, it just goes out to your Twitter feed, and people share it on Facebook. They share it on Twitter. And this is becoming so kind of popular right now that Facebook recently released their thing called mentions. And Facebook mentions is usually just meant for somebody that's a verified, which usually are celebrities and, some other folks too. But if you're verified, that's cool. But if you're verified, then what happens? You do your mentions, and then it goes, a message goes out to all of your followers on Facebook, and they automatically get this link, and they can just go watch it. Compared to Periscope, you have to build an audience. Yeah. So with Facebook, you already have the audience. So I'm excited because Facebook is going to, in this year, in the next few months, I have a friend that works over at Facebook, and they're going to release mentions to just like regular folks. And that's I think going to really give Periscope a run for their money. But it's going to be great.
Big time.
It's going to be great because there are going to be a lot more options for people to find good deals.
Yeah, because why build a whole new audience and following on something else if you can if it's integrated with Facebook?
Already integrated.
Everyone, yeah, exactly.
Right. What's one piece of advice that you would share about running a successful real estate business, Joe?
Hire the right people and be careful with the commitments that you give to them. Make sure there's alignment of interests. So I'll be specific. Whenever I started my real estate company, the key is to be a successful marketer, whether it's marketing for deals or whether it's building relationships with investors if you're raising money.
Right.
That's the key. And I look at the podcast as being connecting directly into my real estate business because it's all one and the same. That's part of my the main marketing machine I have. And initially, whenever I was doing the podcast, I was partnering with an audio engineer. That's how I was able to start delegating some of the responsibilities. But
It's really smart.
My podcast wasn't making any money. And so what I did is I exchanged advertising time on my podcast for the editing of my show until I could get up and running and get my first sponsor. So to run any real estate business successfully, you've got to be resourceful and crafty with how you build it up, and trade services, and have the right team members in place who will do that and who are also hungry for growth, and aren't just looking for a paycheck. Because if they are looking for a paycheck and that's it, then they might not be the right. They're it's highly likely they're not the right person, because you want people who want to grow with you. Right.
No, that makes sense. That's great advice, being resourceful, being able to trade services. And a lot of times we think we're so meistic. We just think we're just going to build this thing. We don't think about all these people that we're working with. They may have interest in working with us. There's what can we do to serve you? Yep. And that's a great perspective, a great approach. I love that. If you had to start all over again, Joe, what would be some advice that you give to someone starting up for maybe a new person?
Well, find something that you love to do from a marketing standpoint, and also find something that you love to do from a real estate standpoint, and then start doing consistent action towards each. So for example, if you want to get started in real estate, but you haven't, then start listening to podcasts like yours and reading blogs and reading books, and then talking to people who are doing areas or in areas that interest you most. Then start testing the waters and doing those areas. And then once you identify an area, whether it's wholesaling, fix and flip, raising money for apartments, long-term buy and hold, whatever it is, storage units, then identify a marketing technique where you will be the category expert in that type of real estate within a certain platform. So I chose podcasting because I just really enjoy it. But I'm also venturing into other stuff now. But you got to pick one and then own it. So if you're a good writer, then have a blog. If you are really good looking and you've got a good quirky personality, then do YouTube. I mean, whatever platform it is. But
focus on your strengths.
Yeah, you don't want to create your content in an isolated room. You want to go where there are already people having a party, and you just naturally integrate with your message into the party because they're already interested in what you have to say. So look at the platforms like YouTube, Amazon, write a book, iTunes, whatever, and find a platform that you can tie into.
I love that. Do you have a favorite business quote or motivational quote?
Secret to living is giving, Tony Robbins.
Secret to living is giving. That's quick. Got it right on the.
Yep, it's on my vision board.
I love it. What books do you recommend? That maybe one that's really changed your life?
I would say Crucial Conversations is a book that I highly recommend. It's a book that outlines what to do when opinions vary, but the stakes are high. It's not only a good book for a business, but then also personal relationships, how to deal with, different opinions. And ultimately, spoiler alert, but you should read the whole thing, is that they talk about identifying your mutual purpose and then building up from that mutual purpose. Because regardless of what you're disagreeing on, if you can peel back the layers and establish the mutual purpose and then make a concerted effort to build up from that, then you're going to get an agreement on some more aspects, and that will take you closer to a solution.
That's great. I love that book. It's a great book. I've read the book. I've listened to the audio version of it on Audible. The cool thing is about Crucial Conversations and books that there's another book called The 5 Love Languages. Have you read that book?
No, I heard of it. I haven't read that one.
The interesting kind of counterintuitive for that is that you actually get a lot of insight for business.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's meant for kind of relationships and how you kind of figure out somebody's love language, if you're talking to them, if they're a gift giver, if they're words of affirmation, if they're physical touch, but you start to get a perspective, at least as an entrepreneur, I got a perspective. Whenever you deal with other people in business, they actually have a quote love language, and you start to understand what they kind of get turned on more towards whenever you start talking about those things. And it's very interesting because you can use the same kind of concepts in that. So it's a fantastic book if you never read it. I think it's Gary Chapman, I believe. It's a fantastic book called The 5 Love Languages. On Crucial Conversation, what's interesting, people fight each other often, and if you can just fight the thing, not each other,
right?
It actually, you can actually get a lot of headway because both people can be passionate about something. That's often that we just turn the fight towards each other.
Yes.
So I think it's a great book. Crucial. We'll put that in the show notes. We'll put all these notes here. Anything that you recommend, Joe,
awesome.
in the show notes. Anybody ever call you an average Joe? Do you ever get like upset when someone calls you an average Joe?
People call me Fairless.
I like
we'll
that.
Go with that.
I like Fairless. What's one of your favorite mobile apps? Are you more of a techie? Do you like mobile apps? Which one do you use in your business every day?
I'd say, to answer your question, if I'm a mobile techie, and I don't like mobile apps, I'm not a mobile techie. I don't like doing post on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. However, one of my friends created an app called Quotiful, Quotiful. Her name's Nicole, and I love that app. I get a notification every morning at 9 a.m., and there's a beautiful quote that is there for me to read. And I almost think of it as like my Chinese fortune cookie of the day. I like read, I'm like, okay, yeah, this applies. And then it's basically Instagram for quotes. And so that's one of my favorite.
That.
Yeah.
I love that. There's another app I use called Grateful. And you have to put it in whatever time you want. But at 3 p.m. every single day, it comes across, says, what are you grateful for today? And you can write in. It's really great because often you think about it, but you're not aware of it until something like pops up in your face.
Yes.
It's just kind of like the quotes, like, you start to go, oh wow, I'll read a quote today.
Yep. And
it's interrupting your day.
If we're not making a concerted effort to think about what we're grateful for, then usually what happens is, when something really bad happens, then we think how nice we had it before that bad thing happened, even though before the bad thing happened, we were feeling sorry for ourselves.
Absolutely.
So there's like some irony there. Yeah.
The grateful thing is, we actually have a program called the Grateful Project. Today is our day 611. You may or may not know the story I went through on cancer, and it kind of opened up some realizations in my life. I had thyroid cancer, Joe, and I actually overcame it. So praise God on that. But I learned a lot through that challenge. So we started this thing called the Grateful Project. And so again, today we're on day 611. And so it's just every day having something to be grateful for. And I think today's was taking action. So I'm grateful for taking action. So little things like that, that you may not think about that you'd be grateful for, but you got to realize that there's other people in life that don't do those things, or they're not aware of some of those things. And so when you bring them to light, it's really important. But I love that. I love Quotiful. I'm going to check that out. That's cool. Do you have a morning routine that you live by or stick by?
Well, first and foremost, thank goodness for your health and continued health. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
The morning routine is wake up around 6 a.m. I'm going to smile at my girlfriend because she'll make fun of me. She'll be like, yeah, 6 a.m. Yeah, she wakes up like at 5:55 and I wake up at like 6:02 and she gives me crap for it. But I wake up around 6 a.m. after her, for the record, after her.
All right.
And I have a liter of wheatgrass before I eat anything. A liter of water with a scoop of wheatgrass.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, a liter of water with a scoop of wheatgrass.
Okay. And what is the wheatgrass that you use that for? I have greens and
it alkalizes
Yeah.
my body.
Right.
And there's other type of mixtures. I want no fruit in them, and a lot of the green mixtures also have fruit in them. So I just get a scoop of pure wheatgrass. I get it from GNC and things called like Simple Greens or something.
Right.
But yeah, it's great stuff. And that's what I'll do is I'll just start doing the things that I need to do for the day. I mean, other than that, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I go to a personal trainer, and Tuesday, Thursday, I try to do something, some cardio. But other than that, I don't really have a routine other than I've been doing the liter of water with a scoop of wheatgrass for about 3 years.
That's great. I use these. I don't know if you can see this or not, but I have it's 8 point. Can you see this?
Yeah. Yep.
8.8 or 9.1 alkaline. So, so I get these waters. I went through so many of them, but this one called Evermore. I don't know if you can just get it anywhere, but I get it at the local grocery store, the organic store. Not. Well, it's what is it called? Organic. I think it's called the local organic grocery store or something like that. So I have Lynn's. It's another store. I don't go to the grocery store. My assistant goes to the grocery store. I get clammy hands. But anyway, so she gets these waters. And so I used all these different waters. But that alkaline water makes all the difference in the world, man. It's cleaner. You feel better when you drink it. I used to think it was just a big hoax. But I don't put wheatgrass in it. I'll have to check that out. That's cool.
Yep.
All right. So what is a big lesson that you've learned, Joe, that has helped you get to where you are today? Let's even call it the greatest lesson.
Raising money is the top of the real estate mountain. That's something I learned from a guest of mine early on. I'd already raised money for a deal, but I didn't really understand the significance of it until I heard that interview, or I was participating in the interview, as well as I started thinking about it, because when we command the money, we become a deal magnet. Or when we have the money, we become a deal magnet. So then it's just a matter of finding the right deals. And then you've got a whole lot of people out there looking to find deals for you, or you can go find deals through creative methods, direct mail, relationships, whatever. So raising money from investors is the top of the real estate mountain.
That's a great lesson. What are you most grateful for?
I'd say my living and breathing. I mean, that's having a heart that works. That would be it right now. It changes every day. I do 15 minutes of fulfillment on a sporadic basis, but I'm trying to get into it more regularly, where first 5 minutes think of things that I'm grateful for. Next 5 minutes think of things that I'm grateful for that haven't happened, but say I'm grateful for them. And the last 5 minutes do incantations. So, it changes, but I always start with myself and my body, because without me being alive, then it's kind of tough to be grateful for other things.
Yes.
So that's my approach, and then think of the ripple effect that has.
Absolutely. And what are your incantation? What do you do on your on that last part?
The incantations, it changes, and I'll give you a glimpse into my world, but hopefully your listeners won't tell anybody about this, because I say I'm a strong, confident, successful, and handsome real estate billionaire entrepreneur. I say that over and over. I'm a strong, confident, successful, and handsome real estate billionaire entrepreneur. I also say all I need is within me now. I just keep repeating it with force and with emotional intensity.
That's great. That is great. And you think that's helped you considerably, just getting to the change of mindset and the change of just perspective?
Well, yeah, it's all about
your confidence.
It's all about experiencing the emotions of where you want to go. And then once you experience those emotions, then you'll start taking more action towards getting there, because you expect to already be there.
Totally. That's great. what point would you recommend hiring a mentor? How important has that been?
Whenever you're stuck. People, one of my favorite authors is Scott Peck. He's a he passed away, psychiatrist, psychologist. He wrote The Road Less Traveled. And he talks about how you need a psychiatrist whenever you feel stuck. And I'd say the same thing with a real estate mentor. You need a real estate mentor whenever you have plateaued or you're stuck. I'm a big proponent of reading books and reaching out to people and saying hi and seeing what value you can add in their life. But ultimately, if you want someone to be in your corner and help you every step of the way, what I found, at least, regardless of how good a relationship we have with people, you got to give them value. And usually that's in the form of money. They could be promotion or other things like that, but you've got to give them something on an official capacity. So whenever you feel stuck, and that's whenever I would bring on a mentor, and that's the approach I've taken.
That's great. If you had to summarize it, why do you do what you do?
Because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel like I'm supposed to be helping others professionally and financially with the gifts that I have. And, just continue to act on that. And then if the blueprint changes, then I'll adjust accordingly.
I love it. Well, let me ask you this. How can we serve you? What can we do to help you? You got all of these kind of opportunities, I guess, from the podcast. So there's not a shortage of that. What is there that you want to accomplish in the next 6 months, let's say? And can anybody help you do that perhaps is listening right now?
Well, I'd say my podcast would be a great place to start. I mean, clearly everybody's a podcast listener, and I assume this will be on YouTube as well since we're doing video. I've got a podcast, like we were mentioning before, Best Real Estate Investing Advice Ever. It's a daily podcast, so subscribe. And what would be like next level awesome is if you rate and review the podcast.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
If you do, then email me and mention that you heard me on Corey's show. And the email is info, INFO, @joefairless.com. So INFO @joefairless.com. And I'll see what type of treat I can give you. I've got a couple different things depending on what your goals are and what you want to accomplish.
That's great. Awesome. Joe, thank you for taking the time to be on here. It really means a lot. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your experiences, your knowledge in particularly commercial real estate investing, which I find is more intriguing. We're getting more people interested in that area. And I know that you have a lot more to share. I know we just went over the 40,000 foot view, but thank you so much for taking the time to do it.
Yeah, very grateful that we're able to have a conversation, and thank you so much, Corey. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. All right. Remember to be on our next podcast show here, and we appreciate you. Remember, be a servant. Thanks again, Joe.
Thanks.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master Podcast series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.